it's like, okay, we're in this repetitive nature. Like, this is in a way a blessing to switch up a little bit, maybe bring some new people on. I have no idea what the writers and producers have planned for the show, but I know the cast has a lot of great ideas and hope for what this next season will be.
What's the best thing about working with Wendi McLendon-Covey?
There's so many things, whether it's amazing cat videos that she shares with us, because she has like 5 or 6 cats and she loves them so much, which I think she's one of the reasons why I ended up with one myself. But I would say she's just so quick-witted. She comes from an improv background, and to be able to witness her not only in a scene, but just in conversation with cast and crew, how quick she is. And she's just so funny. Great energy, and she leads the show in a way that, like, she should be the pinnacle for what people look towards for like a lead of a show. She treats the crew like incredibly. I mean, she does these giveaways twice a year, gifting, where you pull a name out of a hat and she gives away an ungodly amount of money, because just out of the kindness of her heart, she loves like spreading joy, and she does it in such a fun way, but she also can carry a show. So I mean, if you're looking for a lead, like, you go no further.
So like she puts like crew names in a hat and just picks it out, and then what? It's like
They win money.
$10,000, $20,000.
Yeah, like she gives away a good amount every year, and twice a year. It's like she's just so generous, but like she doesn't have to do that. Like, how many sets do you hear that happening? But she creates this environment on set that is just so joyful and supportive of each other. And again, it's not just cast, it's really crew, because we've had a lot of the same crew since day one. And she's just, I mean, honestly, I can't say enough good things about her. She knows what she's doing, and she deserves to be in that role.
Have you learned something just from like an acting point of view from her,
Yes, because this was my first real gig,
Yeah.
So for me, I'm flying in the dark. So to be able to like learn from her just by watching even how she is on set and how she portrays this character and she gets into character. It's fascinating. And I've learned so much just having been around her for these last 9 years.
What about like, we talked about your musical choices on The Masked Singer, the 80s. I mean, did you learn a lot about 80s music? Like, I take it you didn't really grow up at this time. So like, did you like know all these, like, it sounds like you knew Whitney, but did you know some of like the hair bands and all these like wonders?
I would say pop leaning artists like Whitney, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, of course I've heard. But there were, like, for example, one that I didn't know that I had major respect for after was the band Rush. We covered Tom Sawyer on the show, and it was AJ Mashaka and I who she played Lainey. And we got to cover that song, and we're like, do we like Rush now? Like, we did get, there was plenty of artists that I feel like I was educated on throughout the process of filming.
The 80s music, it's just a little bit different, but it's great.
It is that like synthy sound too. So fun.
What about how much fun are the costumes? Like, do you have a newfound respect for 80s fashion now?
It's tough. When we first started the show, I was like, this is going to be fun. And then over the years, it started to dial back a little bit to more modern looks. And personally, I'm disappointed in that, because I think that the whole thing of the show is like, we're really diving into the nostalgia of the 80s. And for me, that includes the fashion as well as the hair and makeup. So it's tough because I feel like lately we haven't been doing it as much, but
it's like a little modernized.
It is.
Do you have like a favorite episode just of like Erica's, or like specific story? I mean, she's been through so much.
Oh man. It's funny. I feel like life imitates art in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of things that Erica would be going through that I was going through. That being said, I'm not pregnant. Before anyone jumps on that, which, maybe down the line, but there's plenty of things that I remember in particular. What was that, season 2, that I did a breakup episode that was one that was very memorable to me, because it was the first time I really challenged myself in an acting standpoint. And I was going through a breakup at the time too. So for some reason that episode stands out in my mind. I think that episode's called Age of Darkness. But she's grown so much from that time to then like figuring out what she wants to do in college to now being a lawyer. It's really cool to see Erica grow up in this way.
It is. Well, listen, we loved watching you on The Masked Singer, but this isn't your first time on a Fox singing show, The X Factor.
Yeah.
So you come in, I mean, and I watched The X Factor way back then. You come in as like a solo, you're put together in a group by Miss Paula Abdul. Like, what was that experience like?
I mean, when I look back on it, it doesn't feel like my life even, but I know at the time it was everything. I kind of, I auditioned as a solo artist and it was nerve-wracking, but I was confident in it. And when I was eliminated, I was pretty devastated because you think like, okay, am I ever gonna, well, depending on what they air, like, can this go under the radar or can I like, is this my peak moment? And I peaked at 17. But it wasn't until they brought me back with the girl group that it was like this whole other challenge of like, okay, I just met these girls, don't know what our voices sound like together, but now we have to convincingly become a group. So it was a lot of hard work. It was many exhausting hours and it was overall just very challenging. But I've met people that are my lifelong friends through that experience. And I learned a lot about the industry through that experience. And yeah, overall, very educational. I'll say that.
I mean, long live Lakota Rain. That's all I have to say. I mean,
Amen. Yeah.
like, come on. What was it like working with Paula Abdul?
Honestly, it was great. On the show, she was, in my opinion, the most involved judge with her talent that she had. So they were broken up into different groups. Like Simon had, well, I think it was like the over 40, and then there was under 40 for someone else, and then groups for Paula. So to my recollection, like she was the one that would show up after hours to be able to work with us and make us feel comfortable. And so it was actually great that we were able to have her as our judge.
Who wouldn't choose Paula out of these wonderful options?
I actually was going through some of my camera roll from that time, and I found videos of her hanging out with us and her two dogs. I was like Bella Boo or Bella. She had like these cute little chihuahuas that she always has around, and she was like dancing. She just randomly started dancing. I'm like, are we watching Paula just like jam right now? And she's like rolling on the floor in her stilettos. She's never not in stilettos. But she was just such a fun energy to have around. So we were very lucky to have her as our judge.
See, maybe next season, Erica Goldberg can do a Paula Abdul song. I mean, that's on brand.
I don't know why we haven't done that yet.
Right?
Like what was the cat video that she did? Yes. It's not, and there's one song that
it's not straight up. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I cannot think of the title, but I'm picturing it all in my head. I don't know why we have not done that yet.
I think it was Opposites Attract, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Iconic. Yes. So maybe we can convince, hey, writers, if you're tuning in, write it in the show. That'd be a great crossover.
Let's bring it full circle. Has the X Factor, I mean, not the X Factor, has being on The Masked Singer this season, like, has this like changed you as a performer? Like, did you learn anything about yourself as a performer?
Honestly, it was just a very validating experience because having worked on the Goldbergs for this long, really getting into a rhythm of that, loving acting, but music has always been my first love, and it hasn't panned out necessarily the way I would have imagined. And it hasn't been the easiest road being an independent artist. So there were many days and are many days that I'm like, I should just give up. Like, we should just stop trying to do this. Play piano at home by yourself, but outside of that, leave it alone. So for this experience, it was just validating to be like, no, Hayley, like, keep doing it if you love doing it. And the people who like it are going to listen to it. And so it's just that balance, I guess, is what I've learned about myself.
And it's like a whole new audience that may not watch the Goldbergs. Even if they do watch the Goldbergs, I mean, Erica singing, once a season isn't really the same as coming in second.
Yes.